Greetings from Agile Learning Lab's world headquarters, beautiful downtown San Mateo, California. So today, our topic is product backlog refinement. Now this kind of builds on our topic last time, which was, well, where do product backlog items come from? And if you missed that, of course, you can go back and watch the video, or for a more in-depth treatment, head on over to the Agile Learning Lab's blog. Our latest blog post is called Daddy, Where Do Product Backlog Items Come From? And we kind of dive into that topic, right? Where are the sources of product backlog items? So, let's assume we have a product backlog. And I tend to draw product backlogs as stacks. Imagine it as being like a stack of dishes or something like that at a restaurant. And up here at the top of the stack, these are the things we're going to be pulling off first. And so these have to be really small, really well-refined product backlog items. And these are ones that the development team has identified as being sprint ready. And sprint ready means that these items are small enough to fit in a single sprint comfortably. My general guideline is I don't want to see anything that is going to take more than 20% of the team's weekly capacity being marked as sprint ready. So if I have a team that's doing 1 week sprints and their velocity is 100 points per sprint, then any product backlog item or user story that has an estimate greater than 20 would automatically be too big to be sprint ready, right? Because that would be more than 20% of the team's weekly capacity. Sprint ready also means that the development team, the product owner, and the stakeholders all have very high confidence that they have a shared mutual understanding of what the outcome from that product backlog item will be, right? When the team is done creating that thing, we all really believe that we're on the same page about what we're going to get. Also, the development team doesn't know of anything that would prevent them from finishing that item, right, all the way to done, in a single sprint. So for example, maybe a dependency. I might have a small, well-defined item, but we can't get it all the way done until some other team does some piece of work. Well, that item might not be sprint ready then. So we want, in general, 2 to 3 sprints, right? 2 to 3 sprints worth of sprint ready stories up at the top of our product backlog. Then below that, what I want is the items to gradually be bigger and bigger, right? So, gradually getting larger and larger until down here at the bottom of my product backlog, I could have some really large items, right? I might have one single product backlog item that's going to take, who knows, 3, 4, 5 months to get that one item done. But it's okay because it's maybe 9 months out in our product backlog. So it's fine that it's still really large. Now, if the team only focuses on getting stories done, right? We commit to stories in our sprint planning. We put all of our energy and effort into getting those stories done this sprint. Well, very quickly what will happen is we're going to get through all of these sprint ready items at the top, and then at the next sprint planning meeting, we're looking at these like big, kind of ill-defined items, right? Maybe not the monsters at the bottom I was just talking about, but still we might be looking at, relatively large product backlog items that are, bigger and less well-defined than our definition of sprint ready. That would be a problem. Everything would start to slow down. Sprint planning starts to take a long time because we don't really understand the things that we're being asked to deliver. And quite honestly, the success rate of our sprint planning goes down, right? The amount of times that we actually deliver the stuff that we committed to starts to go down because, well, we didn't fully understand them when they were coming into the sprint. So to avoid that, we want to do regular product backlog refinement. And there's a whole series of activities that the development team and the product owner are going to engage in. The Scrum Guide recommends that teams spend perhaps 10% of their total time every week on product backlog refinement activities. One common practice, it's a practice that I strongly recommend, is to every week hold a 1-hour product backlog refinement meeting and have the whole Scrum team there and a few hand-picked stakeholders, and we're going to kind of walk through how that works. So this meeting, by the way, has been known by many names over the years. In my book, The Elements of Scrum, you will hear it referred to as story time, because back in my day, we called it story time. That's when we were working on user stories. Then the term grooming got quite popular, and lots of people talked about product backlog grooming and having a grooming meeting and all that. And then we found out that over in the UK, apparently grooming has some very unfortunate connotation. And our friends in the UK really urged us to use some different term. And so these days, it's generally referred to as a product backlog refinement meeting or PBR meeting. And that's kind of nice because then it has an official beverage that you can have at the meeting. So typically the meeting's done once a week. I recommend do it for an hour, no more, no less. And few days ahead of time, the product owner will identify specific stories that they would like the team to refine during that meeting. And they will send out that list of stories ahead of time so that the development team members have an opportunity to have like hallway conversations and things like that to prepare for the refinement meeting. And the product owner will invite stakeholders who are relevant to those specific product backlog items so that, wow, we can have the stakeholders, the team, the product owner all in the room and do the work and have the conversations to really get to shared understanding. Now, a good strategy for deciding which items to pick, well, we've got, these sprint ready stories at the top. They're all ready to go, right? The team said, oh, those are fine. We can bring those into future sprints whenever the product owner wants to introduce them. So maybe we pick a couple of the stories, right below that to try to do the work to get them sprint ready. Maybe we pick, something from the middle of the product backlog and do the work to take it from being like a large story to maybe a few medium-sized stories. And then maybe we're even introducing one brand new, giant thing as well. So kind of, I generally recommend grooming across the whole product backlog, right? Let's do some stuff at the top, one or two things in the middle, maybe bring in one new thing. And of course, every week it'll be a little bit different mix. And so in the meeting, there are 4 common activities. The first is discussing and agreeing about the acceptance criteria. All right, so what are the acceptance criteria for each of the stories that we talk about? And we're either determining what they are or refining and evolving them, right? When we break a big story into smaller stories, those smaller stories get more refined acceptance criteria. Now, once we're on the same page about what the acceptance criteria are, then the development team can provide or revise their estimate for that story, right? Now that we know better what it means for that story to be successfully complete, the development team can give guidance about, well, what is an appropriate estimate for that? Another thing we might do right in this meeting is split stories, right? So split big stories into smaller stories. And this meeting isn't the only place that you might do story splitting, but it's a really good place. And even if we've done some story splitting outside of the meeting, we need to now bring those newly split stories to the team, validate that in fact they make sense as stories, work on their acceptance criteria and get estimates for them. So lots of times I find it's useful to do the splitting together as a team along with the product owner. And then fourth is to identify which of the stories that we've just talked about are sprint ready and which are not yet sprint ready. Now, sprint ready means that the story is small enough to comfortably fit into a sprint, right? We talked about that, less than 20% of the team's weekly capacity. The development team and the stakeholders and the product owner feel like we have a shared understanding about what that is. The development team has high confidence, they know what work they're going to have to do. We don't know of anything that would prevent us from finishing that story in a sprint. And so the team might say, yes, this story and this story are sprint ready. Ooh, these other stories are not yet sprint ready. Now that's really great to find out during our PBR meeting that stories are not sprint ready, because even if they're really important stories and the product owner really wants them right away, better to find out now so that we have time to put in the work to further refine them and get them sprint ready, so that we can start to work on them as soon as possible. Also, knowing which stories are sprint ready allows the product owner to know, which ones would be good candidates to go up there at the top of the product backlog and bring into future sprint plannings. And so I find that in parallel with our build and deliver cycle in Scrum, it's really important to have this constant kind of product discovery and product backlog refinement cycle going. And this meeting that I just described won't be the only product backlog refinement activity. Team members are going to be doing little bits of research. The product owner's talking to stakeholders all the time. So there are other activities that will be ongoing refinement activities. But I find that getting the whole team together once a week for about an hour can be really helpful in maintaining our product backlog in this shape. So if you have questions, comments, or thoughts, feel free to post comments on this post. Also feel free to reach out via email to info@agilelearninglabs.com, and check out our blog where you can find that recent post, Daddy, where do product backlog items come from? And the one before that, I think we were talking about emergency work in Scrum. What happens when you have unplanned work? So there's some good recent posts there you may want to check out. And of course, if you're looking to take a certified Scrum Master, certified Scrum Product Owner, or advanced certified Scrum Product Owner, check out our website. We're offering public classes every month. And most of what we do, of course, is work with companies that are adopting Scrum or evolving their Scrum and Agile practices. So by all means, reach out to us if that's what's up for you. Thank you very much, and see you next time.